They say that after 24 years of marriage, you don't just know your partner, you become a part of them, like two trees that have grown so close their roots are inextricably tangled in the dark earth. I believe that. I believe that Sarah and I were one entity, separated only by skin and bone. I thought I knew the rhythm of her breathing, the specific pitch of her laugh when she was truly amused versus when she was being polite, and the way her eyes crinkled at the corners when she looked at me. I thought we were the lucky ones, the survivors who had weathered the storms of raising a daughter, paying off a mortgage, and navigating the slow, quiet drift of middle age without losing our anchor. I was wrong. Roots can rot long before the tree falls, and you never smell the decay until the wind blows hard enough to topple everything you built. My name is Joseph. I am 54 years old, a retired contractor with calluses on my hands that will never truly fade, and a lakeside home that I renovated board by board with my own sweat. Sarah is 44, a decade younger, vibrant, ambitious, and beautiful in a way that sometimes makes me wonder how I got so lucky. She works as an executive assistant for a high-end real estate developer named Gavin. I know Gavin. I have shaken his hand. I have grilled steaks for him on my deck while he drank my beer and told me what a valuable asset my wife was to his firm. Tonight was supposed to be a celebration. 24 years. We were seated at a corner table in Giovanni's, the kind of upscale Italian restaurant where the menus don't have prices and the waiters move like ghosts. The atmosphere was thick with the scent of roasted garlic and expensive perfume. A single candle flickered between us, casting a soft golden light on Sarah's face. She looked stunning. She was wearing the emerald earrings I bought her for our 20th, and her hair was pinned back in that way I loved. But she wasn't really there. "The renovation on the boathouse is finally done," I said, trying to catch her eye. "I finished the trim work yesterday. I think you'll like the stain I chose." "That's nice, honey," Sarah said. She didn't look up. Her eyes were fixed on her phone, which was resting face down on the white linen napkin next to her wine glass. She tapped a quick reply, her thumbs moving with practiced speed, then flipped the phone back over. "I was thinking we could invite Emily up for the weekend," I continued, fighting the slight irritation rising in my chest. "She hasn't seen the place since Christmas." Sarah hummed, taking a sip of her Pinot Grigio. Her eyes darted back to the phone. It vibrated against the table, a short, sharp buzz. She snatched it up immediately. "Sorry, Joseph, it's just Gavin. We're closing the big merger on the downtown high-rise tomorrow." "It's 8 p.m. on a Friday, Sarah," I said gently, "and it's our anniversary." She offered me a tight, apologetic smile. It was a smile I had seen a lot lately, thin, practiced, and devoid of warmth. "You know how he is," she said. "He relies on me. If I don't answer, he spirals. I'm just putting out fires." "I know," I said. "He's a demanding boss. I miss you." "I'm here, Joseph," she said, reaching across the table to squeeze my hand. Her skin was cool. "I'm right here." I nodded, taking a sip of my water. I trusted her. Why wouldn't I? She was my wife. She was the mother of my child. The idea that she would be doing anything other than working was foreign to me, a language I didn't speak. The waiter materialized out of the shadows, holding a bottle of red wine I had ordered for the main course. "Pardon me, signore, signora," he murmured. "Please," I said. There was a flurry of movement. The waiter reached across the table to grab the bread basket and the empty plate of calamari. In the shuffle, he bumped the table leg, and the glasses rattled. We both reached out instinctively to steady the silverware. "So sorry," the waiter apologized smoothly. He rearranged the table setting, moving the salt and pepper shakers, refilling our water glasses, and shifting our personal items to make room for the entrees. In the confusion, our phones were moved. We both have black iPhone 14s. We both use the standard black protective cases because I'm clumsy and she likes the sleek look. They are identical slabs of glass and metal. I didn't notice. She didn't notice. "I'm going to run to the ladies' room before the pasta comes," Sarah said, standing up and smoothing her dress. "I'll be right back." I'll try to restrain myself, I joked. She walked away, her hips swaying slightly. I watched her go, feeling that familiar swell of pride. I was the old contractor with the graying beard, and she was the head turner. I was lucky. I sat there in the candlelight, tearing off a piece of crusty bread, thinking about the future. I was thinking about the lake house. I was thinking about growing old on that porch swing. Then, the phone sitting next to my bread plate buzzed. It lit up. I picked it up instinctively. I was expecting a text from our daughter, Emily, maybe wishing us a happy anniversary, or perhaps a notification from the security system at the lake. I pressed the side button. The lock screen appeared. It was a picture of our dog, Buster, the same picture I had on my phone. I punched in the code, 10-14-99, our wedding date. We shared the passcode. It was a symbol of our unity, a practical measure for emergencies. We had no secrets. The phone unlocked, but the message on the screen wasn't from Emily. I stared at the preview bubble. The words swam before my eyes, refusing to coalesce into meaning. I blinked, thinking I must have misread it, thinking it must be a joke or a typo or something regarding zoning laws that I didn't understand. Is the old man asleep yet? I miss your mouth. The hotel room is booked for Tuesday. Same arrangement. The world stopped. The ambient noise of the restaurant, the clinking of silverware, the low murmur of conversation, the soft jazz playing over the speakers vanished into a high-pitched, deafening ringing in my ears. It felt as if the air had been sucked out of the room. My heart hammered against my ribs, a violent, erratic rhythm that made my vision blur. Old man, I miss your mouth. Hotel room. I sat there, frozen, the phone heavy as a brick in my hand. My stomach dropped, a physical sensation of free fall, as if the floor had opened up beneath my chair and dumped me into an abyss. This wasn't my phone. My thumb hovered over the screen. A part of me, the part that still loved her, screamed at me to put it down. Don't look. If you don't look, it's not real. Put it back. Pretend you never saw it. But the other part of me, the man who measures twice and cuts once, the man who needs to know if the foundation is rotten before he builds a wall, took over. I tapped the message. The thread opened. It wasn't just one text, it was hundreds. I scrolled up. My hand was shaking so violently I almost dropped the device into the olive oil dip. Yesterday, 10:42 a.m. Gavin, meeting was boring without you under the table. Sarah, behave. He's asking about the weekend. I told him I have a conference in Chicago. Perfect. I'll book the suite at the Palmer House. Tell him the conference ran late. Last week, Tuesday, 11:15 p.m. Sarah, he's finally snoring. God, he's exhausting. He just wants to talk about trim colors and the damn boat. He's so boring, Gavin. I feel like I'm suffocating. Gavin, you're too much woman for a retired handyman, baby. You need someone who speaks your language. Did you like what I did to you today? Sarah, I'm still sore. I love it. 2 weeks ago. Gavin, send me a picture. I need to see you. Sarah, image attachment. I stared at the photo. It was Sarah, my Sarah. She was wearing lingerie I had never seen, posing in a bathroom I didn't recognize. Her expression was sultry, hungry, a look she hadn't given me in a decade. I scrolled back further, month after month, 2 years. The history went back 2 years. Explicit photos, plans for weekend getaways when she told me she was visiting her sister. Jokes about my weight, mockery of my clothes, cruel, biting comments about my intelligence. He's clueless, she wrote 3 days ago. He thinks I'm working late. He made me soup when I got home. He's pathetic. I felt the bile rise in my throat, hot and acidic. I clamped a hand over my mouth, fighting the urge to vomit right there on the white tablecloth. Pathetic, clueless, old man. The man who shook my hand, the man who ate my food. They were laughing at me. For 2 years, while I sanded the floors of our dream home, while I bragged to my friends about my hard-working executive wife, they were in hotel rooms mocking me. I looked up. The restaurant looked the same. The candle was still flickering. The waiter was pouring wine at the next table. But everything had changed. The reality I lived in 5 minutes ago was gone, replaced by a nightmare. If you are listening to this, and if you have ever felt the floor fall out from under you, if you have ever realized that the person you would take a bullet for is the one holding the gun, then hit that subscribe button. Because I want you to know you aren't alone. And I want you to see what happens when a clueless old man decides to stop playing the fool. I didn't scream. I didn't flip the table. I didn't run to the bathroom and kick down the door. I took a deep breath. I forced the air into my lungs, expanding my chest until the panic subsided just enough to think. I looked at the phone. I memorized the date, Tuesday, the hotel room, the blue dress. I closed the app. I wiped my fingerprint off the screen. I placed the phone back exactly where it had been, face down on the napkin next to her wine glass. Then I picked up my own phone, which was sitting near the salt shaker. I put it in my pocket. I sat there, my hands resting on the table, watching the bathroom door. A moment later, it opened. Sarah walked out. She checked her reflection in the hallway mirror, smoothing her hair. She smiled at a passing waiter. She walked toward the table. The woman I had loved for 24 years. The woman who was currently planning to sleep with her boss in 3 days. She sat down. She looked fresh, happy. "Sorry about that," she said brightly. She reached for her wine glass. Then her hand drifted to the phone. I watched her. I kept my face perfectly still. I summoned every ounce of strength I had left. "Gavin needs you," I said. My voice was steady. It didn't crack. It sounded like my voice. Sarah froze. Her hand hovered over the phone. She looked at me, her eyes widening just a fraction. "Your phone," I said, gesturing to the black slab on the napkin. It buzzed. A text came through on the lock screen. I took a sip of my water. My hand didn't shake. "He says it's urgent," I repeated. Sarah snatched the phone up. She unlocked it, tilting the screen away from me. I watched her eyes scan the text about the hotel room, the text about missing her mouth. I watched the color drain from her face for a microsecond. I saw the panic flare in her pupils. Then the mask slammed back into place. She let out a forced, breathless laugh. "Oh," she said. "Oh, yes, it's the contracts for the zoning meeting. He forgot to sign the addendum." She looked at me. She looked right into my eyes, searching for any sign that I knew. "Sorry, honey," she said, typing a reply. "It's okay," I said. She finished typing. She placed the phone face down again. She smiled at me. A warm, loving, lying smile. "You're the best, Joseph," she said. "Most husbands would be angry." "I try," I said. She didn't know I saw. She saw the golden retriever. She saw the safety net she could abuse because she thought I was too stupid to catch her. The waiter arrived with the entrees. A veal chop for me, lobster ravioli for her. "Buon appetito," the waiter said. "This looks delicious," Sarah chirped, picking up her fork. "Yes," I said. We finished dinner. I ate every bite, though the meat tasted like ash in my mouth. I drank 2 glasses of wine. I paid the bill, leaving a 20% tip. I helped her into her coat. I drove us home. She chattered the whole way, energized by the wine and the thrill of her secret life. She talked about the food. She talked about the summer plans. She talked about how lucky we were. I nodded. I smiled. I said yes and at all the right moments. But inside, Joseph the husband was dying. He was bleeding out in the passenger seat. And in his place, something else was taking the wheel. I wasn't sad anymore. The shock had passed, leaving behind a cold, hard clarity. Tuesday. The hotel room. The boardroom meeting Gavin always had on Tuesday afternoons. I pulled into the driveway of the home I had built for her. I turned off the engine. "Home, sweet home," Sarah yawned. "I'm exhausted." "You go ahead," I said, unbuckling my seatbelt. "I'm going to stay up for a bit." "Okay." She kissed my cheek. Her lips felt like ice. She laughed, thinking it was a term of endearment. "I won't," I said. I watched her walk into the house. I watched the lights flick on. I sat in the dark driveway, listening to the engine cool. She thought the game was over. She thought she had won. But she didn't know that the old man had just picked up the rule book. I pulled my phone out. I opened the calendar app. I scrolled to Tuesday. I typed in a new entry at 2 p.m. Meeting with Gavin. I locked the phone. The screen went black. It was time to get to work. The weekend passed in a haze of terrifying normalcy. I drank coffee with the woman who was planning to betray me. I watched movies on the couch with the woman who called me pathetic. I sanded the deck of the boathouse while she sat on the dock, texting him, smiling at her screen in a way she hadn't smiled at me in years. It was a masterclass in deception, and for the first time, I realized that I was the one giving the performance of a lifetime. Tuesday morning arrived with a sky the color of a bruise. I woke up before the alarm. I lay there for a moment, listening to Sarah's steady breathing beside me. She looked peaceful, innocent. It was a terrifying illusion. She got up at 7 a.m. I watched from the bed as she moved through her routine. Shower, makeup, hair. She was meticulous today. She hummed a little tune under her breath, a happy, excited sound. Then she opened the closet. She pulled out the dress. It was a royal blue sheath dress, tailored to perfection. It hugged her curves in all the right places. It was professional enough for a boardroom, but suggestive enough for a hotel room. I asked, sitting up. My voice was raspy with sleep, but my mind was a razor. She turned, holding the dress against her body. Huge. The site visit for the high-rises today. I'll be walking the property all day with the architects. You look beautiful, I said. The lie tasted like copper in my mouth. Thanks, honey, she said, slipping into the dress. She zipped it up, smoothing the fabric over her hips. She looked in the mirror, adjusting her necklace. She wasn't looking at herself for me. She was looking at herself for him. She came over to the bed. She smelled of jasmine in anticipation. I'm going to be late tonight, she said, leaning down to kiss me. Her lips were soft. Don't wait up for dinner. Okay, I said. Have a good... She kissed me. It lingered for a second too long, a performance for her own conscience. Then she pulled away, grabbed her purse, and walked out the door. I listened to her car start. I listened to it back out of the driveway. I listened until the sound of the engine faded into the distance. Then I got up. I didn't go to the golf course. My Tuesday tea time with the guys was a ritual, but today I had a different appointment. I showered, I shaved, I put on my best suit, a charcoal gray number I usually saved for weddings and funerals. Today felt like a bit of both. I went to the bank first. I withdrew $10,000 in cash. It was a safety net. If things went sideways, if she came back and tried to empty the joint accounts before the lawyers got involved, I needed liquidity. I put the thick envelope in my inside pocket. Then I drove downtown. I knew the hotel, the St. Regis. It was a boutique place, discreet, expensive. I had found the reservation confirmation in her deleted emails on the family iPad the night before. Room 412. Check-in at 11 a.m. I parked across the street at 10:45 a.m. I waited. At 11:15 a.m., Sarah's car pulled up to the valet. She got out. She was wearing sunglasses. She looked like a movie star. She handed the keys to the valet and walked into the lobby without looking back. 10 minutes later, Gavin arrived. He parked his Porsche himself in the garage next door. He walked in, adjusting his tie, looking like a man who owned the world. I could have gone in there. I could have kicked down the door of room 412 and caught them in the act. It would have been dramatic. It would have been satisfying in a visceral, violent way. But it wasn't enough. Catching them in bed was a domestic dispute. It was messy. It was emotional. I didn't want a scene. I wanted a demolition. I wanted to take away the one thing Gavin loved more than my wife, his reputation. I checked my watch. 12:30 p.m. I knew Gavin's schedule better than he knew it himself, thanks to Sarah's constant complaints about managing his calendar. Every Tuesday at 2 p.m., the partners of his firm held their weekly strategy meeting. It was sacred, mandatory attendance. Sarah was supposed to be there, taking notes, organizing the files, running the room. Instead, she was in room 412. I started the car. I drove to the financial district. I walked into the lobby of Sterling & Partners at 1:55 p.m. The glass doors swished open, admitting me into the cool, air-conditioned sanctum of high finance. The receptionist, a young woman named Chloe, looked up. She recognized me immediately. I had dropped off lunch for Sarah here a dozen times. "Sarah," she chirped, smiling. "Sarah isn't here. She called in." "I know," I said, offering her my warmest, most harmless smile. I held up a thick manila envelope. "She forgot the zoning contracts for the high-rise. Gavin needs them for the partner meeting." Chloe's eyes widened. "Oh my gosh, you're a lifesaver. Go right back." I walked past the desk. I walked down the long hallway lined with abstract art and frosted glass. I could hear the murmur of voices coming from the main conference room at the end of the hall. I reached the double mahogany doors. I didn't knock. I pushed them open. The conversation inside stopped instantly. 6 men were sitting around a massive oval table. They were all in expensive suits, all looking at documents. At the head of the table was an empty leather chair, Gavin's chair. They looked up, confused. The senior partner, a man named Mr. Henderson, who I knew by reputation as a shark, frowned. "Henderson?" asked, his voice icy. I walked into the room. I closed the doors behind me. I stood at the foot of the table. "Gentlemen," I said. My voice was steady. It filled the room. "My name is Joseph. I'm Sarah's husband, and I'm afraid Gavin won't be joining you today. He's—" Henderson asked, taking off his glasses. "Your receptionist," I said. I walked to the table. I opened the manila envelope. I didn't shout. I didn't throw the papers. I simply slid them across the polished wood surface. They fanned out perfectly. Copies of the text logs, the hotel receipts charged to the corporate Amex, the photos, G-rated but intimate enough to leave no doubt, and the emails. "Gavin has been embezzling company funds to pay for this affair," I lied. It was a gamble. I didn't have proof of embezzlement. But I knew men like Gavin. Men who felt entitled to other men's wives usually felt entitled to other men's money. And even if he wasn't stealing cash, charging a hotel room for an affair to the company card was fraud. "And," I added, dropping the second bomb, "he's been sharing your confidential client lists with his—" That was the kill shot. The room went deathly silent. Henderson picked up a sheet of paper. I watched Henderson's face turn a violent shade of purple. The veins in his neck bulged. Henderson whispered. "The St. Regis," I said. "Room 412. My wife is with him." At that moment, my phone buzzed in my pocket. I pulled it out. It was a notification from the tracking app I had installed on Sarah's car the night I found the texts. Vehicle moving. She was leaving the hotel. "I think my business here is done," I said. I turned and walked out. Behind me, I heard the explosion. I heard Henderson shouting for his assistant. I heard the sound of a phone being slammed onto a receiver. I walked back to the elevator. Chloe smiled at me as I passed the desk. She asked. "Oh, yes," I said. I drove home. The drive was peaceful. I listened to a podcast about woodworking. I felt light, unburdened. I pulled into the driveway. I went inside. I went to the bedroom. I packed her clothes. I didn't throw them. I folded them. I packed the blue dress she hadn't worn today. I packed her shoes. I packed her toiletries. I carried the bags downstairs and set them on the front porch. Then I went to the garage. I got my tools. I changed the locks on the front door, then the back door, then the side door. It took me an hour. I worked methodically, enjoying the familiar feel of the screwdriver in my hand. At 5:30 p.m., Sarah's car pulled into the driveway. I was sitting on the porch swing, a glass of iced tea in my hand. She got out of the car. She looked disheveled. Her hair was a little messy. Her lipstick was worn off. She looked like a woman who had spent the afternoon in bed. She walked up the path, feigning exhaustion. "God, what a day," she sighed, rubbing her temples. The site visit was brutal. Then she stopped. She saw the suitcases, 3 of them, lined up neatly by the door. She froze. She looked at the bags. Then she looked at me. She asked, a tremor of panic entering her voice. "What is this?" I took a sip of my tea. The ice clinked against the glass. "Gavin called," I said. The color drained from her face so fast she looked like a ghost. Her mouth opened, but no sound came out. "He's been fired," I continued calmly. "Henderson fired him over the phone about 20 minutes ago. Security escorted him out of the hotel lobby." Sarah dropped her purse. It hit the concrete with a dull thud. "And his wife knows," I added. "I sent her the screenshots while you were driving home. She seemed—" Sarah stared at me. Her eyes were wide, terrified. She looked at the old man she thought was asleep at the wheel. And she realized, finally, that I had been awake the whole time. "Joseph," she whispered, stepping toward me. "Please, let me explain." "It's exactly what I think," I said. "Room 412, the blue dress." She flinched as if I had slapped her. "You're homeless, Sarah," I said, standing up. "And you're single. I suggest you call a taxi." "Sarah!" she screamed, the tears starting now, tears of shock, tears of ruin. "This is my house." "Not anymore," I said. "I spoke to the lawyer. Since the house was mine before the marriage, and I have proof of infidelity, you get nothing. Read the prenup." She ran to the door. She tried the handle. It was locked. She pounded on the wood. "Joseph!" she shrieked. "Joseph, please!" I looked at her one last time. I looked at the woman I had built a life with. I felt nothing. No hate, no love, just a profound sense of emptiness. "Goodbye, Sarah," I said. I walked inside and closed the door. I locked the deadbolt. I stood in the foyer, listening to her scream on the other side. She pounded on the door for 10 minutes. Then she cried. Then, finally, silence. I heard a car pull up, a taxi. I heard the trunk pop. I heard the car drive away. The house was quiet. It was just me and the echo of 24 years. It was lonely, but it was clean.